Welcome back to the Spectrum Geeks channel, and in this video we're talking about the solar stats for the month of July 2021. I hope everybody is doing well. Thanks for joining me on another solar monthly update. So as usual, I'm going to kind of do a quick recap on what my system looks like, talk about the solar performance of the month overall, and then a couple of key bits in terms of battery performance, car charging, etc. As always, if you enjoy this video, please like it. Be much appreciated, really helps the channel out. And if you aren't already, please consider subscribing and pressing that notification icon to be notified of future videos. So let's crack to it. So I have some stuff popping up on the screen to hopefully make things easier as I go through them. So a quick recap on where I am and what my solar PV system is here in Worcestershire in the United Kingdom. So I have 30 Pymar panels on my roof, which equates to a 9 kilowatt solar array. On the back of each one of those panels is a Solar Edge optimizer, which is all connected back to a 6 kilowatt Solar Edge inverter. Connected to that, I also have a Tesla Powerwall 2 with the original gateway, so no backup capabilities. So if the power goes off, I stop having solar and battery. And then connected to that, I have various MyEnergi products. Obviously, I have the Harvey, which provides wireless CT clamp capability, as well as their hub, which enables me to control some of the stuff with the app. But most importantly, I have the MyEnergi Zappi, which allows me to charge our electric cars both from the grid and automatically from solar surplus, as well as the Eddi, which allows me to heat my hot water in the immersion tank, again, both from the grid and from solar surplus. And then finally, when I'm not able to run my house from solar, I do have to pull from the grid, and I am with Octopus Energy, currently on their Go tariff. And the main advantage of that, especially as an electric vehicle owner and having a house battery, is in between midnight and 4:30 in the morning, I can only have to pay 5 pence per kilowatt hour for my electricity from the grid. If you're looking to change energy provider, and you think Octopus Energy may be the provider for you, both for electricity and gas, then please consider using the link in the description. Both yourself and I will both get £50 credit to your bill. So that brings us up to kind of where we are with the setup that I have. So you can kind of compare it to the setup that you have in terms of comparing the performance. So if we jump into it, so for July, the system performed actually pretty well. So we had 1.12 megawatt hours of electricity generated by the system, and we're able to utilize 91% of it. So good utilization. There's always a few hours, etc., across the whole month where we can't fully utilize everything, and sometimes a little bit leaks back to the grid. But I'm still on one of the original, I was one of the last on the original feed-in tariff stuff from the government. So where possible, I really don't want to export. As much as possible, I want to put things into my battery, into the car, into hot water and everything like that. So you can see things worked pretty well. My total consumption in electricity was 1.17 megawatt hours. So as you can see here, we had to pull 0.14 megawatt hours from the grid. But 88% of my energy did come from solar. There is a reason why I had to pull from the grid a little bit more this month. I had a couple of trips coming up, so as much as I do try and charge my car from the solar, I did have to pull from the grid because I needed to kind of get up to 100% a couple of times. And also earlier on in July, we had set the immersion heating Eddi to heat a little bit from the grid because the weather hasn't been that great in the previous month. So again, still good. 9% exported, 12% imported, and yeah, pretty good. If you look at the next diagram in terms of production, again you can see there how things looked across the month. So pretty steady actually, all the way up to around the 22nd. Then the kind of sun did dip a bit towards the end of the month, but you can see there really good self-consumption. Again, 88% self-consumption. You can see on most days, we've made real good utilization of the solar. If we compare the performance for July 2021 to previous years, you'll see actually this has been a really good July. In fact, the best July that I've had since I had my solar PV array installed. So again, July has been a pretty good month. It was a bit better performing than June overall. Still, it seems that June was the month that I had my best solar performance so far on record. But again, July was good for my solar system here in the UK. One thing that obviously is important to note, or I guess to make you aware of, we obviously had those mega couple of weeks here in the UK where the sun was just absolutely immense. Obviously that's really good in terms of generation, but at the same time it's not optimal for solar panel performance because they get hot, which means they don't work as effectively. So in fact, that's why some of the days weren't quite as good as what we had in June, because the panel efficiency isn't quite as good in that mega heat and mega sunshine all day without any clouds or anything. So if we look in terms of a couple of standout days in July, my highest performing generation day was the 16th of July. So you can see that on the first graph there. Really good performance, 54.2 kilowatt hours of solar energy generated. Couldn't fully utilize all of it, so about 2% went out, which is pretty good. And you can see there on the graph where it you get the flat line at the 6 kilowatts, and that's because that's what we call clipping, and that's where my inverter basically can't utilize any more of that due to the inverter limiter can't get my words out, limitations. If you look at the next diagram, you can see the highest consumption day we had was the 27th of July. And as mentioned earlier, this is because I had to plug in my car and charge up during the off-peak section. So I had to pull around 31.8 kilowatt hours of energy imported from the grid to charge the car. But again, that's only 5 pence per kilowatt hour, so not actually that bad. But we still had 30.8 kilowatt hours of solar generated during the day. And obviously you can see in the graph, most of it is all blue. So we pretty much self-consumed all the solar generation that we had on that day. And then finally there, you'll see that the highest export day, so as you saw on the first page there, we had quite a lot of export for the month. So on this day, on the 29th of July, again, a reasonably good day, so 45.2 kilowatt hours, but we exported 12.4 kilowatt hours of it to the grid. So the cars were charged up enough, all hot water had been heated, the battery was full, everything, so there's nowhere for it to go but back to the grid. So that summarises the performance of the solar PV system. Now we'll pop into the performance of the Tesla Powerwall 2. So as you can see on this slide, 377.5 kilowatt hours of energy went into the battery. The large majority of that will be solar surplus, but there will be a little bit coming from the grid if it felt it needs to pull for the grid during the off-peak times. And we're able to get 339 kilowatt hours of energy out of the Powerwall, again, to run the house and do everything that we need to do. So that results in a 89.8% efficiency, which is pretty good. So Tesla claim around 90% plus or minus 2%, I think it is. So again, we're in the ballpark of the performance we need, and actually slightly better efficiency than we had last month. Then if we move on to the MyEnergi Eddi, so as mentioned before, this is where we're heating the hot water primarily with solar surplus. And you can see here for the month of July, 22.7 kilowatt hours of water heating came from the grid, but 100 kilowatt hours came from solar. So again, solar surplus heating up our water tank to supply us with hot water in the house. Then if we move on to the Zappi, so if you've not watched the channel before, we have a 40 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf and a 78 kilowatt hour Polestar 2. You can see here we had 89.31 kilowatt hours of car charging from the grid, which is around 35%, and then 65% of it came from solar, so 167.95 kilowatt hours of car charging just from solar. So a total of 257.26 kilowatt hours went into car charging during July. That kind of pretty much sums up all the solar related stuff. On the screen now you'll see the previous month's Octopus energy bill. The reason for this is I do normally wait with the videos depending on timing until I get my electricity bill, but I've got some work trips and other things coming up, so just getting this out, and then in next month's video you'll see the previous months, which will be July. But again, if you're watching this for the first time, that's something interesting you can pause and have a look at if you like, because we won't go through it all right now. Then finally, to talk about solar payback. So as mentioned at the beginning, I was one of the people on the kind of last feed-in tariff scheme, so I do get paid a little bit of money for generation and export, regardless of whether I export it or not. So this all kind of feeds into my solar payback calculation. So based on the generation of the solar PV system for the month of July, I will get paid £44.02 as part of the feed-in tariff scheme, and I will get £29.34 for deemed export. So it has no relation to how much I actually exported, just the fact that I generated a certain amount. The feed-in tariff assumes that a certain amount will be exported, so they would just pay me this nominal figure. Obviously, because we have solar generation to charge the cars and heat the hot water and run the house, it means we don't have to buy that from the grid. So obviously that's happening during peak times. So that's saving us an amount of £139.94, and that's based on the consumption we had. So obviously we exported some, so we don't include that. This is only electricity that we actually used from the solar generation. So in terms of the monthly payback, that kind of goes into my virtual piggy bank for payback of the solar PV system, that's £213.30 for the month. That doesn't include any savings on gas or heating or anything like that. But as I mentioned before, when my solar system gets to end of year 3, I will do another year update on the performance of the solar system and where we are sitting with payback. And then finally, obviously lots of people ask about moving to solar now, and obviously there are export tariffs, so what would it have been like if I'd been on that and not in the feed-in tariff? So as mentioned already, I'm trying not to export anything if I can, but exporting always kind of happens. So this month I exported 100 kilowatt hours of energy to the grid, and I would have been paid £5.50 for the energy that was exported back to the grid for the month of July 2021. So that's the end of the video. I hope it helps, gives you a little update continually on where we're going. And again, this is the new format that I kind of shared with you last month. Feedback seemed pretty good, so hopefully short, sweet, and to the point, and give you the information that you need. As always, please leave any questions or comments down below in the comments section. Also consider sharing your performance and information on your system so other Spectrum Geeks viewers can compare and contrast. And as I mentioned before, we do have a Discord channel where people idle and hang out, talk about solar, electric cars, gadgets, geeks, crafting, all sorts of stuff. And if you're interested in that, there is a link for that in the description as well. So take care of yourself until the next Spectrum Geeks video. That's it. Bye for now, and I'll catch you in the next one.